Good evening, everyone. I am Jared Isaacson, Executive Director of Cleveland Hillel, and I would first like to welcome all our participants to tonight's session, and also to thank Cleveland Hillel and the Bronfman Center NYU Hillel for hosting this event, as well as thanking the Hillel at Home awesome team. I'm also thrilled, by the way, to welcome the President and CEO of Hillel International, Adam Layman, to our call this evening. And I feel the need to point out that Adam grew up with David in Cleveland's lovely Shaker Heights neighborhood, though they were a few years apart. As many of you may know, we really can't escape the Cleveland connection in our Hillel world. As a quick explanation of how tonight's program will flow, following my introduction of David and his opening remarks, we will then turn it over to our student facilitators to engage in a conversation with David before we open up the floor to your questions. Our two impressive student facilitators this evening are Shoshana Ehrenkrantz, a senior majoring in film and TV at NYU with a focus in directing comedies, currently directing her senior thesis film in Bermuda. And also Hugh Smith, a junior at Case Western Reserve University, studying materials science and engineering, and our resident MC at Cleveland Hillel and a cappella competitions around campus. It's worth noting that both of our facilitators have also spent 10 summers attending different Jewish summer camps, so no doubt part of David's creative output likely has specific relevance to them. I want to thank everyone who sent in some questions in advance, and to remind you all that if you have questions to ask David during our Q&A portion, please private chat them directly to Paula Harlan. With all that out of the way, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome David Wain to our Hillel at Home community and our program this evening. David is a director, writer, actor, and comedian, originally from Shaker Heights, Ohio. He got a start in comedy during his time in college at NYU, where he met the other members of the legendary comedy troupe, The State. He has directed 6 feature films, the most recent being the Sundance hit, A Futile and Stupid Gesture, starring Will Forte, Domhnall Gleeson, and Emmy Rossum, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival and on Netflix last year. Previous movies he directed and co-wrote include The 10, Role Models, Wanderlust, They Came Together, and Wet Hot American Summer, which itself spawned 2 Netflix 8-part miniseries, Wet Hot American Summer First Day of Camp, and Wet Hot American Summer 10 Years Later. I also do need to point out that David played and acted in the role of the swarthy, sexy Israeli counselor, Yaron. On television, he's been the co-creator, co-writer, and director of Medical Police, an epic action comedy series which premiered on Netflix in 2020. And he was also an executive producer, writer, director, and frequent guest star of Children's Hospital, Adult Swim's hit, which ran for 7 seasons, winning 6 Emmy Awards. He co-created and co-starred in 2 other legendary TV series, The State at MTV and Stella at Comedy Central. He has written, directed, and acted in dozens of other movies and TV shows, including Broad City, Portlandia, Superstore, New Girl, Party Down, Drunk History, Fresh Off the Boat, and The Daily Show. He is the voice, by the way, of Courtney, Gene's necklace-sucking girlfriend on Bob's Burgers. David was also an early web series pioneer with Stella Shorts, and later on Wainy Days, a web series chronicling his slightly fictionalized romantic adventures. Following his years in Cleveland and after 26 years in Manhattan, he now lives in Los Angeles with his 2 sons. We really can't wait to hear what David's currently working on, and we have certainly been very impressed and entertained by his amazing creative output during the COVID-19 pandemic as he continues to produce many different varieties of wonderful content. I am now thrilled to turn the mic over to David and invite him to share some initial thoughts before we welcome up our 2 student facilitators to join David in conversation. David.
Hello. Thank you, Jared. Nice to see you. Nice to see all of you. Hi, everyone. How's it going? I have very little to say because you really said everything that there is really to know about me just there. Most of those things I didn't even know. I grew up, as you said, in Cleveland. I've always been a Jew for my entire life up until now. I'm 51 years old. happy to talk about anything today that's on people's minds. Doesn't have to be about me. Talk about whatever. But I know that I heard from the group here that there's a bunch of amazing questions. So I figure we just basically run into that. I'm happy to talk about uh, anything involving the creative world, creative life, comedy, anything, truly anything. I hope it will be fun, and I will try to be entertaining. And if it's boring, please just put it in the chat. This is boring, and we will do it. We'll talk faster. That's all I got to say.
Well, thank you for that, David. But I think the first thing on everyone's mind here is what are you eating right now?
So I just received from an Asian fusion place down the block called Spice Season. This is some sort of fusion Asian quesadilla, and this is some sort of salad something, which I will, and once we get into the groove of this and I feel more comfortable, I will start snarfing down in a very noisy and rude fashion.
Well, you can snarf away, but I think the best place to begin is the beginning. So, as a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I knew that, I remember as a very, very young kid, I learned about Albert Einstein, and I really wanted to be a scientist. This was really stupid. I should have eaten before, but it didn't work out time-wise. But that's the end of that. I also really loved, I was born in 1969, which is when the moon landing was, and I wanted to be an astronaut at points, but I was pretty young. Maybe by the time I was 8, if you had asked me, I probably would have said I want to make movies or something along those lines. Although I really didn't know, I didn't think about it that much, but I started running around with cameras and making movies 8, 9, 10, and then a lot starting when the video camera showed up at our house when I was 12. But the only time that I really made a decision to go into like the creative arts as a job was really when I went to college, because at NYU to study film you had to be in the film school specifically, and so I just sort of became directed by that situation.
Well, I can certainly appreciate your love of astronauts and going to the moon. I have right behind me here an astronaut picture.
I see that.
Um, Now, when did you know that comedy was the route for you and not just film in general?
It was pretty organic because I definitely was something of a class clown in my family growing up and in school at times. And the things I liked and the things that I leaned towards creating tended to be comedic. And then when I got to NYU, I saw that there was a sketch comedy troupe called the Sterile Yak, and there was an improv group called Stitches 9, both of which were run by this guy Mo Willems, who's since become a very popular children's book writer. And I was just fascinated by, I was so jealous seeing these people on stage having fun and being inclusive about having fun. And it just seemed so cool, and I desperately wanted to be a part of it. So I auditioned to be in both of the groups and got into those groups, and that's when I started sort of doing what you would, defining myself as being involved in comedy, I guess.
Cool. That sounds awesome. And that kind of leads nicely into the next question, which is
Oh,
about,
perfect.
yeah, we didn't plan this ahead. These questions just came to us. And at NYU, right, you founded the State, that sketch comedy team that was really successful and went on to become an MTV series. How did you know who to get in that sketch comedy, and how did you know like those were the right people to make a sketch group with?
The way that happened was really organic, also in a way, which was that that group that I mentioned called the Sterile Yak was a sketch comedy troupe that was started by Mo Willems, And in the second year, in my sophomore year at NYU, the the school wanted us to allow for new members to come to the group, and we didn't want to do that. And so one of the members of the group, Todd Hollebeck, volunteered to leave the Sterile Yak and start sort of a junior varsity B team group. And so he started having just open sessions. Anyone who wanted to come by could come by and just talk about starting this new group. And it was actually called the New Group at the time. And so that B team from the Sterile Yak is what eventually became the state. And I wasn't in it. I was in the senior group at the time. And it was only sometime later that I basically begged the other group to let me be a part of it as well, which was still in my sophomore year in college. And so it was really an organically formed group that was just based on whoever made sense and showed up, and then it solidified over time, and people came and went, and eventually became, really set as a group of 11 by the time we graduated.
Okay, awesome. I mean, my next follow-up was going to be how involved with the NYU comedy scene were you? But it seems like you were very involved because you were part of every single team they had to offer.
Well, there really was no comedy. I mean, the university was not very supportive of any of what we were doing, and it was very hard to get any space or to do anything there. And there wasn't much of a scene, and we wanted to create one, and that's kind of what we tried to do. These groups did not. It wasn't like some of what you hear about at Yale or some of the other schools where there's comedy troupes that have been there for decades and everyone knows about them and you can get into them. That didn't exist at NYU, so we wanted to make it happen.
Yeah, so you built up an underground rogue comedy scene. That's probably the best legacy you could have at a school.
We certainly wanted to. We liked thinking of it that way. We liked thinking of us as outsider rebel comedy group. It was definitely something that we thought about a lot. We were very into talking about how great we were and how, we weren't part of the establishment. We weren't Saturday Night Live and stuff like that. And that sort of cocksure self-talk to each other actually probably did propel our confidence and helped us get into places early on.
Great. So I see that you have a piece of synagogue behind you as your background. And you were saying that, you've always been Jewish. So you've written a lot of parts for Jewish characters. So what sort of experiences did you have like growing up Jewish that influenced like, oh, I have a Jewish character here, he or she must act like this or do this?
I mean, really, I grew up around a lot of Jews, being a Jew. And so the different variations of Jewish people I knew in my life were just the source that I drew from for anything that I would think of. And a lot of my collaborators were also Jewish. And so it just was a natural thing. It was rare that we would say, oh, this is a Jewish character. In fact, I can't even think of a time when I or we made a character that was defined by Jewish first and foremost. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. Oh, well, there was the rabbi in Children's Hospital, Jewy McJuju, that I played. But so yeah, I think the Jewish stereotypes are less of interest to me than just showing the wide range of what all kinds of people can be, and of course those stereotypes do play into it sometimes. And then when Michael Showalter and I did Wet Hot American Summer, which was kind of half inspired by the Jewish summer camp I went to, and half by the less Jewish summer camp he went to. It was like a lightly Jewish camp in our minds, and some of the characters we felt were sort of more classically Jew. And then later, when we did the TV series on Netflix, we had, as you mentioned, the Israeli counselor, which was something that I remember very well from when I was at camp. All the Israeli exchange counselors that we had who got to come to the United States for a few months in exchange for working at a summer camp, and so they really didn't particularly want to be there, and they were pretty clear about it. This was my memory.
Okay, so you don't like build stereotypically Jewish characters in your work, but has there ever been a non-Jew that you got to play a Jewish character and that they were so good at it?
Well, yeah,
And
I mean, certainly my longtime collaborator, Ken Marino, plays the Jewish doctor on Children's Hospital, we did that for 7 seasons on Adult Swim, and then again as Medical Police on Netflix. I mean, it was all really very jokey and very playing on stereotypes and not really going deep into it, but that was what he did, and he's not Jewish. He's Italian, Ukrainian, Catholic. But I thought he did a great job, and he has a big nose. So what are you going to do?
he fooled me, so it's all good.
So throughout your career, both like early on, when you're running around the house with the movie camera, and then later on, who are you modeling your work after?
Well, I know that my sisters and their boyfriends would play the Steve Martin records a lot in my house when I was very young. I mean, I guess when I was 10, 11. And I used to watch, I got very into Steve Martin, and I watched him on beta tapes of Saturday Night Live, and of his specials, particularly on NBC, were really just ingrained in me from watching them over and over and over again. Along with Woody Allen, similarly, I just ingested those movies over and over and over. And I feel like a lot of what I was just running around with the camera, just playing with it, just like any kid would, and just doing whatever I could think of. Music, this is a show, a pretend show, or music video, or a little skit, or, just, hey, look, we can set up the camera and pretend to fight each other, and it was just fun. I would do alone or with my friends. I had a show called Cleveland Rocks that I did in my basement, where I pretended to be all these different correspondents, and although I called them consultants because I didn't know the word correspondent, and put on costumes, and it was just, my sisters were much older than me, and as I got to be in my preteen years, they were out of the house, and so I was home alone a lot, just entertaining myself doing these videos in the basement.
Sounds like a fun time.
It was all right.
Yeah, I mean, you're a Steven Spielberg. That's what he did, right?
I mean, I definitely never quite stopped. I always thought about that my career was just a continuum from doing that, and I just still run around with my friends with a video camera doing stuff. It's just sometimes I have a bigger budget.
I mean, it seems like your work sometimes does feel very verite, like On the Move with your web series, Rainy Days, and Stella, like all these, some that seem more curated and more, based on a script, but it seems like improv is part of your routine.
Less than it might seem. There, a lot of the stuff like Rainy Days or Stella there's some improv, but a lot of it is scripted. It's just that it's scripted and shot and put together very quickly and on a tiny or zero budget, which to me is a lot of fun, and sometimes makes for some of the most daring and fun and funny material, because you can try anything without a lot of stakes. But my style, I guess, that I've gravitated to over the years is for things to, I'm not as interested in just freeform improv on screen as much as I like to have some sort of script that you've thought through ahead of time. Just my own taste.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the stuff that we've done over the years has been, whether it's some of the touring shows that I did with Stella or other things, it's designed to seem completely unscripted and sloppy, even though it may not be.
When I say improv, I mean, you guys are so natural. It looks like maybe you
Oh,
guys are speaking like it's a normal conversation.
thank you.
Great actors. And can you share a little bit about the impact summer camp had on you as a child and later as an adult?
I mean, I always loved summer camp, and my best friends in the world that are still my best friends today, we all went to summer camp together, and it was a real bonding experience. And then by the time I went to sleepaway camp, starting when I was 8, it just became, yeah, a really important, special part of my year each year. And it's where that idea that you can get you have independence from your parents, and you're with your friends 24/7, and every day feels like a year, and just a very intensified, heightened time. And so when I got to be an adult, I felt like it's just so naturally cinematic to me to, that notion that the compressed time of summer camp, and how also as a teenager, your hormones are raging, and there's just so much, everything's a drama, everything's a big deal, everything's huge, everything's the end of the world. And so, yeah, it is something that I've gone back to over and over and thought about. And I was, having done the movie about summer camp, and then to go back and do 2 miniseries about it, I really still felt like there was more to say, or more things about summer camp that were worth talking about. Now I feel like maybe I've said what I have to say, but it definitely has been. It was a forming experience for me, and I would hope my own kids would do it sometime.
Yeah, and both Shosh and I, and I'm sure tons of people on this call grew up at summer camp, and I think seeing the movies and seeing like Wet Hot American Summer, it's such a relatable experience, which is nice. There's not too many unrealistic filters, to make it like a kid's movie or something. There's really a lot of truth behind everything, even if it's like a ridiculous line or ridiculous scene.
That
But
was definitely
now,
the intention.
what?
That was definitely the intention.
Yeah.
Those movies are based really on our own real experiences, not on other camp movies or something else.
So now, during COVID, how has being trapped at home impacted, your work and your creativity?
Slowed it down a lot. um, as soon as the shutdown happened here in Los Angeles, I looked ahead, and now I had a lot of extra time, and I started to do a few things that I never had time to do. Like I went out to the garage and played the drums, and started making some like covers of songs with friends remotely, and putting them on YouTube, truly just for fun. And that became like sort of I ended up doing 17 of those song covers. And I've done a lot of just random stuff during the quarantine like that. We did a live read of Wet Hot American Summer. We did a state live read event. I did another musical short for Peacock with David Yazbek and Lin-Manuel Miranda, and just like I worked on a PSA about wearing masks with Paul Rudd, but it's all sort of been an absence of actually having my real work to do, or my paid work to do. And I also have 2 sons, and they've been home this whole year, and so at home. So less of my proportion of time is spent on work in the last year. So as it has been for everyone in the world, to different degrees and in different ways, it's been pretty challenging. But I've been trying to stay creative in every way I can, and I've been making some TikToks and some Instagram videos, and whatever I can, sometimes just to keep myself sane, just to do something. And I've also been, as I'm developing material for bigger projects in the future, I spend a lot of time, and normally you go and you pitch something to someone. You say, here's a movie I want to make, and you lay out the story, or a TV show. And during this time, I've been creating little videos instead of just talking about it on Zoom, where I can edit and add some flair to it and kind of do what I do. So it just keeps me sane.
Well, speaking about TikToks, we received some questions from, quote, millennials in attendance who wish to remain anonymous, asking about your growing hilarious TikTok presence featuring incredible 90s content. What tips have you picked up through social media that you can share? And if you can also explain the whole 90s thing you're doing on TikTok with the chords and the lyrics.
I need some tips. I feel like I'm not, nobody's noticing my efforts on TikTok the way they should. But one of the, I've just sort of trying different things. One of them was a series called What If They Sucked, where I take famous like old songs and manipulate them just enough so it sounds like the bands are really terrible. And the one you're talking about is called I Miss the 90s, which is true. Like somehow in the 90s, I didn't really pay attention to music. And so there's a lot of big hits from the 90s that I've never heard or I don't know. And so I took requests from people on TikTok and they gave me titles of songs and I just looked them up online and I just see the lyrics and the chords and I sat at the piano and play them without knowing how the song goes and just seeing what comes out. And the results for people who know the songs are horrifying and hopefully entertaining. And that's what I've been doing.
So throughout a lot of your projects, you have kind of a similar cohort of cast members, you know, whether it's in the miniseries To Wet Hot American Summer, where you had virtually the same cast years and years later, or between shows, it's kind of the same actors. So how do you keep that group together? How do you keep them coming back to you for your projects?
Well, I just think that in general, people like working with their friends. It's just fun. It's more fun to go to work and be with people that you know and that you trust creatively and that you just like personally. It's a natural thing. And so if you have a chance to do that, a lot of people will do that. And so as many of my friends have become bigger stars and higher paid entities in the business, they will sometimes come back and work with me because it's worth, it's worth it to do something that will be fun and to work with friends. And I felt when I first saw the state at NYU that seeing that group of people on stage that looked like they were having fun and that they liked each other was infectious to me as an audience member and made me enjoy it. And I've tried to imbue that in projects that I've done where you feel that the chemistry on screen is real and not just two people that both got hired to do a job.
Well, I mean, watching the documentary behind the filming of Wet Hot American Summer, that is exactly what type of environment it seems that you successfully set up. You guys were filming on a campsite, so you guys were living in the cabins. And I mean, did it feel like camp? And did it remind you of a camp experience, or was it just completely different?
It was a lot like camp. I mean, it felt like camp, but we were 30 years old and didn't have to follow any rules of camp. And so, yeah, it was like Camp Plus in so many ways. I mean, the difference was we were shooting 12 hours a day. So it was not like in my camp, we mostly sat around and did very little. And that was, part of the magic formula of what made it so special. But we did, in fact, sleep in the bunks and eat the camp food and do all those things. And it was so many years later in our lives. And so I think that in particular was a very special experience for so many of us. For some of us, it was the movie we'd ever worked on. It was the first really professional set I'd ever worked on. And it was just so many firsts. And so it was a massive bonding experience for that group. And it was going back and doing it again twice at Netflix was also similarly really exciting, although completely different because that was shot not at a real camp, but in LA. And we had to do every trick in the book to recreate that feeling of that Pennsylvania summer camp where we shot the original, to the point of even building bunks at this ranch in Malibu where we shot both of the miniseries.
I like how you said that shooting at camp was like camp except no rules, because in the movie it was really kind of about a camp with seemingly no rules. So
Right.
I'm sure that translated really well.
Well, I mean, but literally we were not kids. So nobody could tell us like, you can't, I mean, I could go to bed whatever time I wanted.
So even though, that group of actors is really close together, loves working together, I'm sure that in making the follow-up series, it must have been really difficult for everyone's schedules to work out. No matter how much they wanted, everyone was being pulled in a million directions. So how did you pull that off? Like, was that really difficult?
It was the most insane, challenging puzzle I've ever worked on, honestly, which was because we were dealing, there were 60 some actors in Wet Hot. We tried to get every single one back. And no, because it was a sequel, you couldn't recast anyone. And so, and some of these people are big, huge stars, and some are not. And it didn't even matter though, because everyone's got whatever their schedule is. We weren't paying anyone a lot of money. And so we had to say, literally, whenever you can come, we'll make it work. And so we were shooting different bits and pieces of every episode every day and running around from place to place just so that we could, for example, shoot, one actor 27 scenes in one day because he can only be there the one day. And another actor is only there the first week and the other actor can only be there the last week. And so we have to shoot two sides of the same scene on two different, two people talking to each other that never even met. And using VFX sometimes and just different camera angles. It was really fun. It was a fun, challenging production puzzle. And for anything that you liked in those miniseries, and I thought I was very happy with them. But I'm even prouder of what we pulled off behind the scenes was nothing short of miraculous for my money.
Well, the outcome was amazing. It was very funny, very entertaining. And before we get on to maybe a magic trick, one last question for any of these aspiring filmmakers or comedians in the audience tonight. Do you have any advice about breaking into the industry? Maybe some insight about how you did it?
It's funny because as the more years go by, the more my advice feels antiquated and out of date. It's funny, somebody asked me recently about what it's like to go to NYU Film School and any tips, and I started talking about it, and then I realized my tips are like 30 years old. And so certainly the entertainment business of today is wildly different than it was when I was trying to get into it. But I think certain basic things apply, which is don't wait for other people to tell you it's okay to do things. You should, and more now than ever, you can create your own material. You can shoot your own thing. You can edit your own thing without anybody's permission, without a lot of money. But at the same time, I think it's important to seek out real knowledge and mentors and not assume that everything can be figured out on YouTube. This is something I try to teach my own children. And I think less and less, but it's still somewhat the case that it's really helpful to locate yourself in New York or LA, just to be physically around in some potential theoretical post-COVID time, the other people who are doing this sort of work. I really do think that the key for any career path that you're interested in is just working really hard and not waiting around for it.
Thank you. And I guess Bermuda is not the best place for.
Never know. Well, I mean, it really is becoming less and less. I mean, I know that half the people who live and work in LA in the business have left and are locating themselves remotely somewhere certainly during this time. And a lot of them are saying, I'm not coming back. So I don't know, maybe all bets are off.
Okay, well, that's reassuring. And do you have a magic trick? I sense you have a magic trick.
All right, I've got a magic trick. Okay, let's see. I was debating what to do, but let's see. Let's try this. Whoops. Whoa. You can see this. Here's a thing. I have a deck of cards here, and I have this envelope. Okay? You can see it, and the envelope is going to be here, and it's not going to move. I'm going to do that so you can see it. The envelope is going to, oh, I'm even going to put some more light on here, guys. Dun, 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 dun. So you're going to be able to know that I'm not touching this. This is right here. Here's a deck of cards. Now, it's a regular deck. It's got every card in the deck. But what I did is on the other side, I wrote down different numbers on every card. You see that? So Hugh, give me any number you want between 1 and 52.
Let's go with 51.
I was gonna say 51. Yeah, 51.
Oh, you were both going to say it. Great. Okay. So as you can see, I'm going through here until I find 51. Every single number is here. And somewhere is going to be 51, I hope. Meanwhile, how about those Cleveland Browns this year? They really did it. There's 51. Okay. Now, how many? Maybe Shoshana, you can tell us your choice of any card in the deck. Number and suit. Can be ace through king, any suit.
Like I'll do the suit is king, is hearts.
Okay, and then what? Which heart? King of hearts or any heart? Any heart. Ace 2, 3, 4, 5 up to king.
3.
3 of hearts. Is that your choice?
Yeah, 3 of hearts is my final choice.
We can change it. You want to change it?
I won't.
Okay.
No.
So let's find the 3 of hearts. It's going to be here somewhere, I'm sure. I mean, it's got to be.
It has to be, right?
That's, you said it. There it is, the 3 of hearts. So did I influence you to say either of those choices, either of you? No. And now, remember I told you here's this envelope that we haven't touched. And I've written a prediction on this envelope. And are you ready to see what it says? Ta-da.
Ooh.
Well, it's, no, but look, it's Jack of Hearts, and you picked a heart, so that's pretty damn close.
Oh,
And number 32, not terribly off from
Right.
1.
Wow.
I will say, remember though, every card has a number written on the back, and every number on the back has a card underneath. La-da. And for that,
Wow.
thank you very much. That's
I think you may have picked the wrong line of entertainment there.
it's very, very likely true that I made some bad choices somewhere along the line.
So now we're going to move on to some audience Q&A. And first, I'll introduce Emma from Rhodes College.
What's happening at Rhodes?
Hi. Well, there's a lot of ice in Memphis right now, so that's fun. I'm from Texas, so you don't see a lot of ice
I hear
in
you.
general. So my question for you is, I'm a huge fan. I grew up on your work. I hope that doesn't make you feel old, but
I'm old. There's nothing I can do about it.
I have seen A Stupid and Futile Gesture 10 times.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad you saw that.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. So I have a couple of questions about it. I was wondering how you decided which modern comedians would play which National Lampoon writers in A Stupid and Futile Gesture. Like, I thought it was interesting that Joel McHale played Chevy Chase. That was amazing, especially since they worked together. And then I was also wondering if you read a lot of National Lampoon growing up.
You know, okay, I'll start with that one. I actually didn't. I was a Mad Magazine kid growing up. I was obsessed with Mad Magazine. I had all the magazines, all the books. I had a whole shelf of Mad Magazine books that I think my mom threw them out at one point, and I was so mad at her. I couldn't even believe it. So I wasn't really as aware of the Lampoon, but I was obsessed as a kid with Animal House and Caddyshack. So the movie, for those who don't know, is about Doug Kenny, who founded the National Lampoon, the Harvard Lampoon and the National Lampoon and then went on to make the movies Animal House and Caddyshack, and sort of was a founding father of the modern vernacular of comedy from today. And so to answer your question about the casting, yeah, I mean, we just thought about it a lot of like, we really were aware that it was a certain generation of comedy people chronicling the previous generation, and that was a daunting task, but we just wanted to pick people that we felt were exuded the essence of the characters as we understood them from our research. The Chevy Chase being played by Joel McHale was a specific case where I think it was Joel McHale's idea actually to take on that. I don't think I would have even thought of it or even dared ask that, because they, as you said, they did work together, but I thought his performance was absolutely brilliant. I was thrilled.
Great. Our next student who's asking a question is Rebecca from NYU, who's studying acting.
Hello, Rebecca. You're on the air. She doesn't want to come on.
Rebecca, don't be shy.
Come on, I went to NYU too. We're like buddies.
Rebecca Lillenbaum? Oh, it's not allowing her to unmute.
Hi, this is tech support. Is your video on? Let me just make sure. Okay,
There she
Rebecca,
is.
you should be able to unmute now.
Yes. I am so sorry about that. It's great to talk to you, David.
I've always thought there would be a time when I would get to hear something from Rebecca Lillenbaum, and now's the time.
Now is the time, yes. So I know you talked about bringing your Jewish roots into your art. I don't know how you see combating anti-Semitism specifically through art as a productive way to make us more seen, prevent like violence upon us, with the Jewish laser myth and like QAnon. I don't know if you see creating art as a way to combat anti-Semitism.
I do see it as a way, and I think it's an important way. I confess it's not something that I've done or intended to do particularly in my work, but it's something I would hope to, quite honestly. I think that the sort of the new rise of anti-Semitism out there in the world today is terrifying, and just part of the general sea of misinformation that's causing a lot of hostilities of all sorts and a lot of problems of all sorts. And so I would like to be part of bridging that information divide, whether it's about anti-Semitism or racism or anything. And I look forward to trying to think of ways that I can use whatever talents I have to do that. I'm not sure what they are yet, but it's something to think about.
That's great. So next we have Avery from the University of Missouri.
Hi, Avery.
Hi, how are you?
Go U of M.
So I was wondering what the biggest obstacle has been, like throughout your career, what you had to, I guess, get over in order to succeed.
I mean, so many. Early on, I would say one of them was just my ability to sit down and do the work and to like force myself to write every day, or to so often in this business, it's job by job, and you have to be a self motivator and create on your own, even if you never know if something's ever going to come of whatever you're working on so often. And so just creating that structure and the motivation and the discipline was and continues to be in many ways challenging for me. And there's always different obstacles, and I've had very low points and higher points and easy times and hard times, but I can't think of anything else that was like particularly unique to my struggle. But certainly one of the obstacles that I've faced is that people would see certain things I've done and assume that that's all I can do. And I think that we all get typecast, and so I've done my best to try to do a increasingly wider variety of things, so people don't just think of me as, oh, he can only do, silly, pointless comedy or whatever. But I've been incredibly lucky overall and very fortunate, and I have no major complaints.
Next, we have Matt Berger, big fan and Hillel professional.
He's a pro.
David, great to meet you. Big fan of the state. We actually, when it finally was available on DVD, a bunch of us had a watch party and bought $240 worth of pudding for the watch party. So
did you really do that?
We really did that. Yeah.
That's so awesome, and I would love to see a photo.
All right. I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about how the state went from being just another college improv group to actually winding up on MTV? I'm sure a lot of the students here have, are involved in improv in college. How did that happen?
A lot of it was just sheer will. We really were so determined not to just be a college group. While we were in college, just decided together, like, this is way bigger than college for us. We're going to stick with this, all for one for all, forever. That was sort of the thought at the time. And we had an inroad at MTV in that I was doing some interning there under the tutelage of a friend of mine, much older, who had dated my sister in Shaker Heights, named John Bendis. And he was sort of what got us in the door there. And when they were putting together this series called You Wrote It, You Watch It, they were looking for directors to do these little skits. And with that, we're talking about, self-starting, I just went back to the dorm at NYU and said, let's shoot 3 skits tonight and edit them and turn them in tomorrow, and just say, here's what we could do as a whole group. And we kind of just steamrolled our way into being a part of that show. And then as a result of that, they gave us the opportunity to make a pilot for our own show. And that was how that started. But MTV at the time was a relatively new network that was just starting to do shows beyond music videos. And so everybody was relatively young and inexperienced, and it was a great, really fun time to be working there.
So, David, now we're going to your time zone with a question from Amanda, who's at Oregon State.
All right, West Coast.
Yeah, West Coast. Sadly, I'm not calling in from the university where Animal House was filmed. I'm so sorry.
I accept the apology.
I'm very close to there. I'm a huge Wet Hot American Summer fan. I put on my t-shirt for today.
Whoa, nice.
Massive fan. I've seen the film probably 12 times and the TV series, the Netflix series, like 8. And I have a few questions for you about the film. I guess.
Lay 'em on me.
When you were growing up at camp, what were you known for? What was your camp stereotype? And what Wet Hot American Summer character do you most identify with personally? As well as if you have any fun memories that you'd like to share, I'd love to hear those also.
I was more than not I was just sort of the regular guy at the camp who didn't get the popular girl but wanted to, but I had friends, and I had a good group of friends at camp, and I was also something of the arty, the radio guy, nerdy, and especially as a younger kid. There's little pieces of my experience in a lot of the characters in Wet Hot American Summer. I was the guy who dropped a bunch of campers off at Mount Katahdin in Maine, and then drove the van back in order to see a girl and crashed it in the middle of the woods. But I guess, it was more of a coupe. As far as funny experiences or memorable experiences, pretty much all of them ended up in one or the other of Wet Hot American Summer. So just watch that and you'll know.
And our last Student question is from Abby from Georgia College and State University. Welcome.
Abby Frankel.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. So, obviously Wet Hot American Summer had a lot of actors and actresses that were about to break out, like Bradley Cooper and Amy Poehler. What was it like working with them? And did you have an inkling that they were going to be as big as they are?
Yes. To me, it was pretty clear that this cast was incredibly special, and it definitely felt to me like it was only a matter of time for most of those people to get bigger. And Bradley Cooper was just a super, he had literally he skipped his graduation from acting school to be in the movie. And he was just so sweet and curious and interested and and then I didn't see him for many years in between. And then when he came back and did the sequel or the prequel with us, he was literally exactly the same, to the T, exactly the same. But like I said, it was just a group of people that all bonded. At the time, some were more established. Molly Shannon was already a big deal, and David Hyde Pierce and Janine Garofalo and Paul Rudd to some degree. And then all of us just kids kind of running around, but it didn't feel like there was any hierarchy there. And I don't feel like it felt like it even when we did it years later, when some of the people were superstars by then. So it's just nice people. I think people who come from sketch and improv are often just nice and supportive for each other, whereas sometimes the people I met who came up more through stand-up are a little more competitive. But that just might be my outsider judgment. Might not be true.
So I hope that we took you on a trip down memory lane today. And thinking back, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't know. It's so such a metaphysical. Is that the word? I guess I would just say, it's all going to work out okay, and not to get too down on yourself, and maybe to one of my big regrets I had was when I went to Sundance for the first time with my short film that I had made at NYU. I was probably 22 by the time it got to Sundance. And then I got all this attention from it. I mean, just enough that people started calling with, setting up meetings and lawyers and agents and producers. And I didn't really have the thing that I wanted to do in mind next. I didn't have a script for a movie or anything. And so I felt like I sort of somewhat blew my first opportunity. And so I've talked to younger people today who are so much more organized than I was then, in terms of I got this script, I'm ready to go, I'm going to do this project, I'm working hard, I'm getting up early. And I find that very inspiring. So maybe I would advise that I would do that, but then again, then I wouldn't have turned out to be who I am now, and I'm fine with who I am now. So it's all worked out.
We're all happy how you turned out. So thank you. And I just want to end on, before we close it out officially, someone direct messaged me, and I think it's a really beautiful statement. So this is from Jeffrey Peck. The state was a huge influence for me in my high school years. I love that you have been doing these Zoom things throughout COVID, like the state reunion and Sketchfest, and now this wonderful get together. And I agree, this is really wonderful.
I'm really glad that it's been a value to others. It's certainly a value to me to do this kind of thing and to connect in ways that are in any way we can. It's obviously so challenging. So I'm glad, very happy. Thanks for everyone for coming and being part of this.
Before we actually formally close it off, Mel is going to end with a note. So welcome Mel from NYU. She's amazing. Come on to the stage.
I don't need to be sold. She sounds great.
Hey. So I want to say thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. And of course, a huge thank you to David, Shoshana, and Hugh for spending your evening with all of us and making us laugh. I think all of us really will remember the night we watched David Wain eat Asian fusion quesadillas. And it's nice to have a laugh during these hard times. And David, thank you for the refreshing reminder to not wait around to make things happen for ourselves that you mentioned earlier at a time when we're doing a lot of waiting around for other things. So I think that really struck me. Thank you also to Cleveland Hillel and Hillel at Home for being such great partners and putting this whole night together. Hillel at Home will be hosting a bunch more awesome programs in the next couple weeks, actually, that I just want to put on your all's radar, including a bunch of variety of programs for Jewish Disability Advocacy Month. So we'll be welcoming, Hillel at Home will have events welcoming Israeli Paralympic athletes on February 28th, a conversation with the incomparable disability rights activist Judy Human on March 2nd. And also we'll be hosting the filmmaker Lacey Schwartz Delgado on February 22nd. So lots going on. Also,
I know Lacey for 20 years. She's the greatest woman ever.
Well, we can all find out on March 2nd.
Highly recommend that one.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, David. And lastly, there will be also a student organized drag show celebrating Purim on February 25th. So those all sound really exciting to me. Hope to see you all there. And again, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And thank you so much, David. We really hope everyone can find a way to go back to camp this summer.
Wouldn't that be nice?